Casper at the price of 25 cents as of right now seems very realistic in my opinion, not financial advice, because that right there, keep in mind, is only around a 10.5x from here at this point. I mean, caralho. Just imagine, right? Not too long ago, when Casper had that massive pullback, it was very difficult to even think Casper could ever even reach the price of even a cent ever again, or maybe 2 cents. But then as of right now, man, Casper has had a pretty good recovery. Not the best, but in my opinion, it's heading in the right direction. And as Casper grows a lot more, right, I think the growth could very well be exponential. And let me explain why I think this could very well be the case. Because we take a look at, for instance, Cardano's native token called ADA. It was hovering at a very caca price for quite a while. Actually, it was around 3 cents in price at one point. Going to the price of $1 was very difficult for ADA. But then $2, $3, it seemed a lot easier than the initial journey, if that makes sense, right? So when it comes to Casper, I don't see why that would be any different. At least that's the way to take a look at it. Because just imagine, once Casper goes to the price of 5 cents, now that's a big psychological barrier for a lot of people, right? Then 10 cents is like, whoa, that right there is also another big barrier. Then eventually 15 cents, 20 cents, and at that point, 25 cents really doesn't seem that hard to achieve anymore anyways. And even the market cap wouldn't be that crazy, because you take a look at, considering current circulating supply, market cap would be around $3.2 billion. Like, that's so minuscule in the grand scheme of things. You take a look at the heights in which, even Dogecoin reached over 80 billion, right? BNB reached over 100 billion. Ethereum reached over 550 billion. This isn't too much to ask for, at least that's the way to take a look at it. Now, here's the thing as well. If I actually take a look at Casper, for being as amazing as it is, a layer 1 blockchain, sometimes people like to say that it's complete trash. It's not great. But my perspective is this. If a lot of worse projects, I would say, right, quote unquote, can do a lot better than Casper, I just don't see why Casper wouldn't do well too. And not to mention, Casper has pretty decent exposure. It's not the best. The community is very passionate, it's very strong. So I think during this bull run, it's going to have its time to shine. Not to mention as well, if you take a look at Casper, sometimes people like to say that, oh man, adoption isn't going to be the best, all this type of stuff. Well, it doesn't really matter. During a fully fledged bull run, people usually care about one thing and one thing only, and that's typically hypothetical upside. And when it comes to Casper, it does have that box checked, in my opinion, because fundamentals, it doesn't lose out to other layer 1 blockchains like an Algorand, like an Ethereum, like a Solana, and let alone a bunch of other layer 1 blockchains out there. I would still argue that Casper is actually one of the best because, unlike Ethereum, it is very low in gas fees, and also it's very scalable, and also it doesn't suffer from random unreliability nonsense, much like, Solana. Now, granted, some people may argue, okay, Casper at one point experienced like a breach. Even though it got fixed very quickly, some people often like to harp back on this when I mentioned the Solana example. But keep in mind, Solana experienced 8 different network outages in just a time span of a year. I'm not saying 8 in 5 years. I'm saying 8 in just a year. That's really bad. Now, again, that's just allegedly, but still, that's not acceptable in my opinion. Not to mention as well, when you take a look at the BNB Smart Chain ecosystem, people really like it, right? But then just last year in 2023, I get it, we're close to 2025 at this point, but still, it is last year from this point. But even besides that, according to Crypto.com research, in 2023, slightly over 2% of the crypto hacks actually occurred on the BNB Smart Chain ecosystem. That's complete caca, in my opinion. I mean, caralho, porra. That's just not great. So if that happens to Solana, if it happens to, the BNB Smart Chain ecosystem, that's okay. But then when it comes to Casper, suddenly it's not okay. Suddenly it's really bad, even though it's a one instance type of thing where a lot of people panic. It's whatever, I don't really care about that. And pretty much everyone forgot about this too. Now, keep in mind, if Casper goes to the price of 5 cents, 10 cents, 15 cents, am I still going to be acquiring Casper? Sometimes people like to ask me this. And the answer is absolutely, because instead of me having this cash in a bank account, let's say, where it's just quite essentially, hypothetically, getting eaten alive by inflation, instead of that, even if, let's say, this can do a 40%, a 50%, whatever the case may be, or a 2x, that's still a lot better than what I originally would have, right? So then it's not when it reaches 15 cents, I'm going to be oh yeah, I'm done. No, that's not the case whatsoever. I'm going to still stay patient when it comes to Casper, and I'm going to still acquire it because I do believe better days are ahead. And I think, what happens to Casper, or should I say what happened to it, right, is a great reminder why it's a bad idea to act under a high emotional state, in my opinion, at least, because a lot of people, they panic sold, they were like messaging, commenting, and like saying, oh, wow, we're panic selling. It doesn't really matter though. It is their choice. But for me, I didn't do that. I accumulated more. On top of that, I didn't actually unstake at all. I was still staking, still acquiring, because I still believed in the future of Casper, because I was like, it's not going to do bad. I've been saying this. And actually, if you watch my videos from back then, you'll know I said this, right? I just said like, okay, I don't think it's going to be the best performing thing of all time, but I said, I just don't see why it wouldn't have a good recovery, or let's say at least do good during a fully fledged bull run, because even if you take a look at the co-founder of Ethereum, who also happens to be the founder of Cardano, he basically left Ethereum. A lot of people like to say, oh, he allegedly got fired, but whatever the case may be, he's moved on to a much better layer 1 blockchain, in my opinion, in the case of Cardano. But even besides that, according to Charles Hoskinson on a video on November 26th, he said he could very well see, Bitcoin either reaching the price of $250,000, so that's $250,000, by the way, all the way up to $500,000 in the next 1 or 2 years. Again, from around November 26th, right? But even besides that point, can you imagine if, let's say, Bitcoin does reach $250,000, let's say at least his worst case, prediction, right? Could you imagine what happens to Casper then? 25 cents, easy peasy, hypothetically at that point. So when I take a look at something like Casper, it's just so amazing. It's basically like an Algorand, like a near protocol, but then at a much lower market cap. So this is such a no-brainer pick for me. Sometimes people like to say that, oh yeah, when it comes to Casper, it's this layer 1 blockchain that's CAC and all this type of stuff. But just imagine, Solana before 2021, what was the ecosystem for it? Also take a look at Algorand, Avalanche. Many of the layer 1 blockchains, they typically pop off first, and then they start having an ecosystem. So when people want Casper to have an amazing ecosystem first, we usually don't see this, historically speaking. So in my opinion, I think Casper could hypothetically do well, and it doesn't really matter, again, if it doesn't gain like mass adoption in the next 6 months to a year, because people don't really care about that anyways. Better days could be ahead, which is why I'm staying patient. I've been acquiring Casper, can you believe this, ever since 2021. So it's been like ages at this point, right? But then I still believe in it because I think better days are ahead. And, the other day I had a friend who said, oh, Warren Buffett said that, cryptocurrencies aren't that good, something along that effect, right? Because when I was talking about cryptocurrencies, he was saying how, Warren Buffett allegedly doesn't like cryptocurrencies. But here's the thing. In 2012, Warren Buffett invested in newspapers, allegedly, I believe, right? Even I know that's a bad idea. Like, who would invest in newspapers? So again, the way I take a look at it is that, I wouldn't really take a look at what happened back then and do it right now, because it's a different time period. It's a different, environment. So I wouldn't do that. I much would rather believe in cryptocurrencies as of right now, as opposed to like gold, something like S&P 500, or let alone newspapers. Why would I do that? Even I know, again, that's a terrible idea. But yeah, even besides that point, I'd much rather prefer something like Casper, because again, at the price of 25 cents during this bull run, that wouldn't surprise me whatsoever. And I'm very bullish on it. And make sure to subscribe if you gain value from this video. I greatly appreciate it. It's been Lee the Captain, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. I'm out. Peace. Bye.